Practical Research 1, Module 3. Quantitative and Qualitative Research. Our objectives: first, define quantitative and qualitative research. Second, differentiate quantitative from qualitative research. And then third, recognize the importance of quantitative and qualitative research. There are two broad categories of research methodology: the quantitative research and qualitative research. The methods to be used in conducting a research will determine the approach the researcher takes in identifying relevant data and collecting and analyzing the information gathered in the research. Choosing either a quantitative or qualitative approach will affect the components of the research. For you to easily understand the similarities and differences between the two research methods, here is a short definition of terms that you have to be familiar with. First, contact time. It is the period when the researcher interacts with the research subjects or participants to obtain relevant information. Second, hypothesis. It is a statement usually predicting the relationship between variables that can be tested by scientific research. Third, outlier. A statistical observation in a set of data that is inconsistent with the majority of the data. Fourth, output replicability. It is capable of repetition, imitation, or reproduction. Last, research instrument, a measurement tool designed to obtain, measure, and analyze data from research subjects around the research topic. Next, we have the sample size. It is the number of subjects to be taken from the target population of the study. Trend, an assumed development in the future that will have a long-term and lasting effect, prevailing style or preference. Validity. It is the functional quality of research instrument in obtaining data and producing results based on the purpose of the study. Last, variable. Any characteristic that can have different values or traits that may vary across research participants. Generally, quantitative and qualitative research differs on the type of data they produce. The former dwells on the collection of numerical data analyzed by statistical analysis, while the latter deals with descriptive, in-depth and holistic data analyzed by summarizing, categorizing, and interpreting. On this note, you need to use quantitative research if you want to confirm or test a theory or a hypothesis, and use qualitative research if you want to understand concepts, thoughts, and experiences. As seen on the table, quantitative research aims to characterize trends and patterns. It usually starts with either a theory or hypothesis about the relationship between two or more variables. It uses structured research instruments like questionnaires or schedules. It uses large sample sizes that are representatives of the population. It has high output replicability. It used to gain greater understanding of group similarities. It uses structured processes. Its methods include census, survey, experiment, and secondary analysis. While on the next part, which is the qualitative research, it involves processes, feelings, and motives, and produces in-depth and holistic data. It's usually concerned with generating hypotheses from data rather than testing a hypothesis. It uses either unstructured or semi-structured instruments. It uses small sample sizes chosen purposely. It has high validity. It's used to gain greater understanding of individual differences in terms of feelings, motives, and experiences. It uses more flexible processes. Methods include field research, case study, and secondary analysis. Here is a simple example on how you can apply two methods differently on the same research question. How satisfied are students with their studies? In quantitative research, you may survey 250 students at your school and ask them a question. On a scale from 1 to 5, how satisfied are you with your studies? Then, you can perform a statistical analysis on the data and draw conclusions such as, on average, students rated their studies 4.1. On the other hand, in qualitative research, you may conduct in-depth interviews with 15 students and ask them open-ended questions such as, how satisfied are you with your studies? What is the most positive aspect of your study program? And what can be done to improve the study program? Based on their answers, you can ask follow-up questions to clarify things. Furthermore, you can transcribe all interviews and try to find patterns and commonalities. Read and analyze the following table from What is Qualitative Research by Alasuotari, 2011, to be deeply acquainted with quantitative and qualitative research based on different categories. First category, question domains. For quantitative research, they are who, what, where, and when. For qualitative research, questions that start with how, what, and why. Second category, the common sample size. For quantitative, 150 to 200 plus. For qualitative research, 10 to 15. Third, contact time. For quantitative, 10 to 20 minutes. Qualitative research, 45 to 240 minutes each. Validity. For quantitative, it must be true of most of the data or nomothetic. For qualitative research, must be true of each case or ideographic. Variables. For quantitative, define relationships and establish general case. For qualitative, describe relationship and establish meaning, structures, and context. Outliers. For quantitative, unique positions lost to the weight of the average. For qualitative, valuable descriptive cases with unique access to average cases. Examples: for quantitative research, surveys, numerical counts, statistical analysis, mathematical modeling. For qualitative research, interviews, literature content reviews, real-world observations, case studies, ethnographies. Here are the quantitative research samples. First, we have K-pop comparative assessment on the full implementation of senior high school curriculum among private and public schools. This study aimed to investigate the impact of the respondents' expectations and apprehensions on the effectiveness of the full implementation of senior high school curriculum. Comparative assessment of the program was conducted between private and public schools with students, parents, teachers, and principals as respondents. To give comprehensive analysis, interpretation, and implication of data, weighted mean, t-test, ANOVA, and Pearson R were employed. Next, the use of supplemental learning materials in improving students' academic and attitudes and pre-calculus. This study aimed to determine the effect of simplified supplemental learning materials in improving students' achievement and attitudes towards pre-calculus. Quasi-experimental research design was employed with 70 students as subjects of the study. Mean percentage score, weighted mean, and t-test were applied to describe data and make good inferences about the experimentation. The researcher used the gathered statistical data to analyze and interpret the achievement and attitudes of students on using the supplemental learning materials and pre-calculus. These are the qualitative research samples. K-pop apocalypse, invading Filipino cultures. This study aimed to explore why Filipino cultures are invaded by the K-pop mania. In this research, the researcher used survey and descriptive method to determine the reasons and venues of where Filipinos would usually find out about K-pop. Their answers would then help the researcher gather data on the awareness of the respondents regarding K-pop and how it has penetrated their life and culture. Last qualitative research sample is livelihood aspirations and life struggles of Badjao people. This study aimed to discover the livelihood aspirations and life struggles of Badjao people in the 21st century generation. In this ethnographic research, the researcher employed participant observation with a combination of unstructured interviews as tools in acquiring data. These involve the use of behavioral analysis and recording of the information gained from participating and observing on daily interactions. Through face-to-face discussions, the respondent's subjective and detailed personal story can be told. This further granted access to deep knowledge and explanations and helped in grasping the subject's perspective on their livelihood aspirations and life struggles. This ends the discussion on quantitative and qualitative research. This is my reference. Thank you.